Ladies and gentlemen, modified 2022 Subaru BRZ, owned by my buddy Jarek out here in Las Vegas. Now, I actually drove this exact example on Las Vegas Motor Speedway maybe a year or two ago. It was owned by Alex, but since then Alex has sold it to Jarek for $36.5. And since then, a couple changes: the new Advan wheels and the new tires. These are the Yokohama Advan AD09s, which is their Endurance 200, not like the AO52s that a lot of you are probably going to be more familiar with. Now, a lot of mods on this car. The full list is down in the description. First of all, visually, I think this is tastefully done. I think as you get older, your tastes do change, and the stuff that I thought was cool when I was 16 years old is different than what I think is cool now. But when you have like a splitter, you have the Veris hood scoop, you have the big wing, which is functional, I think it looks purpose-built, right? This is built for the track. Both the prior owner and current owner do track this vehicle. In terms of the mods that are going to change the driving experience, let's start with power. So, drop-in filter, carbon filter was removed, which adds maybe 5-10 horsepower. Did a 91 tune with the full exhaust. No E85 yet, but that is planned in the works. No forced induction. We got MCS coilovers. It's their base. I think it's like the W1NR or whatever their nomenclature is, but still like 16-way adjustable. We have a Cusco strut tower brace, as well as reinforcement on the master brake cylinder. Coming into the interior, man, it has been a minute since I've been in an 8.6 or BRZ. This is a premium, so you have the Alcantara up there. This wheel also has Alcantara, which is nice. I think that's aftermarket modification. I don't think that OEM comes with Alcantara on the wheel. We got this IRP shifter. It's not just the actual shift knob here, but it's actually a short shift kit as well. Oh, you still got the little Japanese thing from when I reviewed it on track. I remember that. As you guys know, I sold my 22 base GR86 after owning it for about a year and a half, but I still love this platform. The reason I sold it is not because I don't think it's a great platform, it's because, you know, I've just been on the 8.6 FRS platform for over 10 years and it was time to change it up. All right, so to get into reverse, you press this cap down, which is a new design I haven't seen before, but this is also new since the last time I drove it, this IRP shifter. The question we're going to be answering today is, with around $36,000, do you get this, a pre-modified used BRZ, or do you buy a brand new BRZ TS? This thing is really high up, but I guess ergonomically it's actually pretty good because you're closer now to where your hands are on the wheel. And for the watch aficionados, we're rocking the Omega Speedmaster Hesalite 3861. Full exhaust, catless. We do have fewer restrictions out here in Vegas. Helps to wake the engine up. Sounds like he's unplugged the sound module, thank goodness. And I gotta say, for a track build, first impressions, this thing's comfortable, man. MCS coilovers are held in high regard for good reason. We're getting this rattling sound, which the owner warned me about. He said it was mostly just on cold starts. This shifter actually feels really good. Very short throws, super tight at notchy. This is actually pretty fun to use. Throttle response in these cars is a little bit, it's not totally natural. It takes a little bit of time to get used to. You gotta jab it a little bit harder than you think. And it's not always consistent across the rev range. One of the issues I also had with my 8.6, although the tuning of the throttle on the 8.6 and BRZ is a little bit different, these CSG Endurance pads. Okay, you can feel the rear rotate a little bit there. When I drove it on track, I felt like it was a little bit too stable. This is such an improvement over stock. Even the front end, it feels a little sharper, but also more natural. One of the issues with the stock configuration is with the fast steering ratio and stock suspension setup, it feels a little bit darty, but here we have some reinforcement, we have the coilovers, we have the tires, the new alignment, etc. You have still a very sharp and responsive front end that's not overly darty and artificial. Steering feel as well is a little bit more natural because the stock tends to have this stickiness on center where it kind of catches a bit and then you turn it and then you feel the weighting change, and that always bothered me so much, both in my 8.6 but also the BRZs that I've driven before. And here, that's very much reduced. Impressed by these coilovers. You're getting great feel of the road. It's absorbing the larger bumps well without a lot of unnecessary motion. Maintaining great body control. This is a good setup if you want to have something that is track focused but still highly daily drivable. It's not overly punishing. I haven't tried the CSG Endurance pads. They feel fine in terms of the initial bite and the modulation. I used to use the 21s in the front, the 11s in the rear. I think that might be a more aggressive compound. These are their endurance pads. But they're feeling fine. They're feeling natural. Some more aggressive compounds will be too bitey at the beginning, and then you can't quite nail the brake pressure. There's a bit of a learning curve, but here we're not having that issue. I gotta say, man, I was skeptical when I first saw this thing. I'm like, dude, this is unnecessary. But now using it, I'm a believer, man. If I remember correctly, when I drove this on track, I was impressed by the steering improvements, and even here, you're getting so much more feedback. Definitely one of the more noticeable weaknesses in the stock configuration would be the steering. Getting a little bit of excess motion there with these coilovers, actually, on some of these larger bumps. For the most part, pretty dialed in. Maybe letting off just a touch of that damping would be helpful. This is such an amazing canvas, right? Such a great starter vehicle. And like, do I miss mine? There's a certain charm and fun with the 8.6 and BRZ platform that is hard to find elsewhere. At least in the stock configuration, it's so easy to throw around, and it's so nimble yet practical, and I love the vehicle for what it is. But it definitely has its shortcomings. The McPherson strut front suspension really washes out on track, and you can do the camber bolts as I did, which helps quite a bit. But what the owners have done here with a greater budget, right? They've put more of that towards fixing these glaring issues. The steering here is a lot better. The shifter here is a lot more enjoyable to use. The power isn't really that much improved over stock, but the power isn't a huge shortcoming coming out of factory either. The first gens had a lot of issues with that torque dip, but when they increased displacement to 2.4 liters and mostly got rid of that torque dip and that power and torque bump, it feels adequate now. Although with this configuration, I think this is set up well for track. We can feel it getting a little lively underneath. Especially when you're trail braking, you can get that rear end to start rotating. The brakes are fine for canyon work, but from my experience, the stock rotors and calipers with heavy track use, you're hot lapping for 20 minutes, they don't hold up so well. Even with those CSG 21 and 11 pads, I was getting a lot of rotor warping, and it raises the question. The BRZ TS is out now, right? Tuned by STI. The two main things you're getting there are the Sachs dampers and the Brembo brakes. And for the extra money, I think it's maybe $2,500, $3,000 more than the Limited, which is the upper trim of the BRZ. So a pretty similar price to this. $36,000. Do you get a BRZ TS or do you get this? And I think this car is actually modified really tastefully. Obviously, this is much more track focused than the BRZ TS, but the BRZ TS, the Sachs dampers are excellent. The MCS also excellent. Probably needs a couple clicks softer on the dampers, but definitely more track focused here. With that extra money, you are getting better brakes, but almost everything else on this car is going to be better. Obviously, it's a used vehicle though, and now you no longer have the warranty on all these aftermarket components that you've added. And what is it, 3 year, 36,000, or I don't even know what the warranty period is, but those are real considerations that you, as a future BRZ owner, would need to make. If it was my money, I don't know. I think there's something to be enjoyed about the journey of modifying a car yourself. So I would probably go with the TS and then modify it from there and then comment on how each modification is changing the character of the car. But I would head it in this direction. I mean, I love what they've done with the front end. This shifter is actually a lot of fun to use. I was skeptical, but I'm actually enjoying it quite a bit. It's just so notchy and so tight and short throws. A lot of the issues I've had with the original car, this has addressed, except for things like the brakes, right? But if you're like me, I am definitely not the guy who loves wrenching on my car. I've done so many brake changes and oil changes and swapping out the rotors on my 8.6 and FRS that I've gotten sick of it. And the reason I did it, and still sometimes would do it, is because of the cost of doing it yourself versus going to a shop. And then sometimes you also worry about the quality depending on what shop you go to. But when you're modifying a car, for me at least, I would have a shop do a lot of these modifications. I would not install my old coilovers. I've heard horror stories from many friends who have done so. And there is something about the convenience of getting something that is already modified, but it's also the journey that you're losing. You can't really appreciate each individual component. Like, I would love to drive this car with and without that Cusco strut tower brace, just to see how much does that help the front end, because the front end feels so good now. How much of that is the tires, the coilovers, the alignment versus the Cusco strut tower brace, right? Those are the questions that I have that I'm really curious about. But anyways, my friends, what do you think? Would you go BRZ TS? Would you go for a modified BRZ like this instead? Let me know with a comment down below. Big thanks to Jarek, the owner, for letting me review his vehicle. If you want your car reviewed out here in Las Vegas or in California, then fill out the form on JabalAndCars.com and we'll be in touch. My friends, much love, and I'll see you all in that next one.